Welcome to EFT Nation, your home for all things tapping. For show notes and resources, please visit EFTtappingtraining.com. We are your tapping hosts. I'm Alina Frank.
And I'm Craig Wiener. The information provided in this podcast is not a substitute for counseling or medical advice. The information presented here is meant to inspire and educate listeners, but are not guarantees of any kind.
Let's share with our audience how to work with children using EFT.
That's a good topic.
It is a good topic. We get asked this question a lot, so here it is.
Because, people are working with their own kids because that can be a big source of stress in your life.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
we say kids, and we're going to be really broad because we're going to cover some distinctions between different ages, but whether they're an infant, a toddler, an adolescent, a teen, they all have their own sources of fabulousness and challenges that they present. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's start at the very beginning. What's going to help your in utero child?
How about tapping on yourself for the stress you're feeling while going through pregnancy and the challenges and the exhaustion and the frustration and the wanting it to be over
and the guilt that you're not connecting the way you should and the guilt that you ate a piece of sushi and all of it. So we know that stress in moms shows up as stress in utero. And so what we want to do is get rid of that, and so tapping
let's reduce it.
Reduce it.
The idea of totally getting rid of stress while pregnancy is kind of absurd. But
right.
But like you said, cutting it down and bringing it to a minimal level, or when you are experiencing it,
yes,
resolving it once you notice it.
Right.
Right.
And so because I came from that world in my career before going into EFT.
What do you mean?
I was a postpartum doula. And I will tell you that, the level of stress that you're feeling has a heck of a lot, and as an EFT practitioner and trainer, the level that you're feeling while you're pregnant absolutely not only has to do with your environment, current day, but also your history. So let's say that for me, I had a stillborn, and then I had 2 subsequent pregnancies with my children where I was stressed out. It resulted in me going through 36 and 34 hours of labor delivery because of the unconscious stress that I had, that my belief was unconscious, of course, was if I hold them inside of me, then they're safe. It's when they're born that things can happen. Mm-hmm. So do yourself a favor, do all the tapping on all of these issues from 0 to 9 months, even before, if you're struggling with things like infertility. All of that contributes to your ease, optimal health, less stressed out. You leads to less stressed out people around you, leads to less stressed out, lower cortisol levels in, swimming in your embryonic fluid.
Yeah, and I want to say 2 different ways of looking at stressing and tapping on this, stressing about tapping on stress, is one is when you notice that you're feeling anxious and worried and scared.
Right.
To start to have it be one of the resources that you practice to reduce it. Mm-hmm. But we also know that pregnancy is such an immense source of different stresses and fears and worries, etc.
Yeah.
That perhaps you just develop a tapping practice, whether it's a daily few minutes or on the weekends or whenever it is. And just at that time, dedicate some period of time to just notice, okay, what stress is going on for me today about this?
Sure.
Because when we're most stressed out,
yeah,
it's often the time we're least likely to remember what to do that's good for us.
Sure.
Right? We're just in the stress of it. So just some different thoughts about that.
And always there are people who specialize in working with women who are pregnant, labor delivery and EFT, EFT working with small children, EFT working with teenagers. So by all means, this is your starting place. And if you're not seeing results for yourself, or seeing it go deep enough because you can't see the forest for the trees, then by all means reach out to us. We have a Rolodex of fantastic people around the world that we can refer you to. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's for pregnancy in utero. Then baby comes. Baby comes, sleepless nights, issues with breastfeeding, all of it. Same thing. Tapping on yourself, getting a practitioner if you can't resolve it. But also
Well,
this,
that's tapping on your stresses about what the
yes.
baby's stressed about,
Well, because
right?
I mean, there's nothing that actually proves this, but it's sort of anecdotal that infants share their parents' energy fields until they're about 3 years old. And
Okay.
so whatever is affecting you is affecting your child. And so just like animals are incredibly energetically sensitive, we talk about our little BB's trainer, dog trainer, likes to say emotions travel down the leash. Yeah, they do. And so the more you can remain calm, regulated, help yourself, the more you'll see a calm baby. However, there are things that are going to happen where you know that the baby is the one that is having a sleepless night, teething, all those things. For that,
Okay, so now what we're saying, it's not we're not tapping on your concern about the baby.
yes,
We're going, okay, how do we tap on the baby to reduce the baby's stress
right. Or pain,
or
or right.
pain or discomfort or whatever that is?
Sure, and make sure
And
you seek the advice of a medical doctor before
especially
diving.
for
Yeah.
physical conditions or
Yep.
colic or whatever.
Yep.
So now we're looking at, do we actually tap on a baby given those soft fontanelles on their head
Right.
and all of that? Is that what you do?
You could tap on the finger points, very gently squeezing the fingers on either side of the fingertip. On either side of the nail bed. You can gently do that. You can rub the points. But more often than not, we suggest surrogate tapping with infants. So go back and listen to the show on surrogate tapping, and you'll get all kinds of tips on how to do that.
But just briefly what it means for those that haven't yet so they know what we're talking about. Surrogate tapping means, because you're energetically connected with your child, tapping on yourself
Right?
on behalf
as if
or
you
as
are.
if you are the child.
Right.
So what might that look like?
Even though my pain in my mouth, my teeth are coming in. I'm in so much pain.
Okay. So you're just imagining.
Yeah. Make it up.
You're intuiting, you're sensing.
Make it up.
You're connected. What they might be experiencing, and then noticing whether that regulates them, whether that calms them.
Yeah.
And if so, whatever did it,
Yep.
good job.
Yeah, I have suggested doing that in the middle of the night with lots of parents, and boy, it really does help. Okay.
What
so-
happens when they start hitting 2, 3, 4, 5?
Oh yeah. So for 2, 3, 4-year-olds, I would say you could still really greatly benefit from doing surrogate tapping and tapping on yourself. In fact, one of the things that we recommend in our trainings is if you are a practitioner and you get a client that says, help me fix my child, or my child has a problem, we really suggest you work with the parents first because of the family dynamic, the pressure that that parent is maybe placing on that child for unwanted behaviors to change. All of that, the child is definitely picking it up. And so it's important to tap on their frustration, their anger, their sadness, their fears, all of that before ever working on the child. But how do we work on a child that's young? Toddler.
Especially because a toddler, they can really vary in their maturity, in their awareness, in their vocalizing and communicating.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big range.
Yeah. So should you do even though I deeply and completely accept myself?
You know what? That doesn't seem to usually resonate with a 3-year-old, right?
No.
So how do you adapt that? And what are you tapping on? Are you tapping on, can they describe the emotion they're feeling or where they're feeling it in their body?
Nope, usually not.
So in other words, so I have a 3-year-old son, we'll say, and they're having a meltdown and they start like banging and they want something and I don't know what it is and they're starting to cry and get angry and just starting to have a temper tantrum.
Right. Well, I would say, it really is helpful for your children to see that you have emotions and you know how to regulate your emotions. So would it be okay for you to tap on yourself? And I'm not suggesting that you tap saying, what a friggin' little shit he is, right? Do not do that in front of your children. It's not advisable, but you can do silent tapping to regulate your emotions when you're seeing your child having a temper tantrum. And guess what? It helps. Can't believe how many times it stopped a child who's having a tantrum by seeing their parents or feeling energetically their parents
calm down and
calming
regulate.
down. Right.
Okay.
All right. So
But tapping on the kid.
tapping on the kid in that moment when they're having a tantrum, is it advisable to go in there and start tapping on them? Depends on your child. Absolutely depends on your child. It could be even more triggering. So what to do? You can tap on your child on their points if they let you. You can rub their points if they let you. You can turn on some music that will facilitate tapping on the points. So younger children, gross motor versus fine motor, meaning you're not likely to get the side of the eye point on a really little one, but you can open your hand and tap with your palm gently at the top of the head, on the chest, on the thigh points, under the arm sometimes. So all of that is really useful, and you can sing a song while they are tapping. Now, there is an amazing CD out there. We have about 20 copies left that we ordered back in the day when we were doing in-person trainings. And if you would like to get this, email us. I will eat the shipping costs if you're living in the U.S. And unless you're in Washington State, there's no tax. I'm going to charge you $12 for these CDs called Magic Fingers 1, 2, 3. So this is a friend of ours who really got into tapping, who was a children's musician, who put together all of these lovely songs. And there's Ned, the Angry Pirate, that's tapping on your head. So there's a lullaby song. There's just beautiful, beautiful songs that you can tap. You can regulate your child. Your child can regulate. And in fact, we actually know that a preschool co-op here where we live locally actually starts their circle time every morning by grounding the kids with one of those songs. So it's but you can do it with any song. Change the words or keep the words. I mean, the Barney song, I love you, you love me. What's wrong with that? Add tapping.
So it's really the stimulation, and that's when you're able to. Now, at a certain age, they may want to take over the tapping themselves, but at the beginning,
Yes.
they're also often wanting the touch. Not always, but the touch and the contact can be very soothing, and you're tapping on them.
Right.
We talked about you tapping on yourself,
Right.
surrogately for them, but there's also another option, isn't there?
The surrogate tapping toys out there. So there used to be a toy called Tappy Bear, but you can make your own version, which is to just get a stuffed animal and sew little buttons or butterflies or embroider on the points. And you can have your child talking about the problem as if it were Tappy's problem. So the younger the child, the more it's, I heard Tappy had a bad day at school today. What do you think he's feeling? All right, let's tap on Tappy, even though you feel so sad, Tappy.
Tappy's really feels really bad.
Yeah, so we're tapping on Tappy. They're talking. They can even be starting to create some easy setup statements and reminder phrases. And all they're doing is talking about the problem while tapping on the bear. So go back to listen to the surrogate tapping episode that we did to learn more about why this might work. But they are stimulating their finger points when they're tapping, and it does work.
Okay.
So a young child can also benefit from them explaining what happened in their day or a situation just the facts. They're not likely going to be able to describe the emotions they're feeling. But, this might be a good way to help them start understanding emotional intelligence, is to try to help them describe what they're feeling.
So if they're, they're not doing well and you ask why, what happened, and they say that their sister took their toy
Right.
and she was being really mean.
Right. So they could be tapping on themselves while telling you, or you could be gently tapping on them while they tell you just the story, just the facts.
Because are they tuned into the emotion right there,
Sure.
even though they're not necessarily accurately naming it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they are. Their energy system is tuned into the upset or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's really lovely is when they get to the age where they're able to tap and even come up with the simplest setup statements. They love sharing it with their playmates and their friends in the schoolyard. It's really lovely to see how
They show them
they
how to
show,
tap.
oh, you're feeling sad, let's tap. So, yes, easy setup statements could be, even though I feel blank about blank, and instead of saying I deeply and completely accept myself, I'm a good kid. My mom and dad love me anyway. I have superpowers.
I'm a Superman.
Yeah. So anything like that that resonates for the child is going to work.
Okay.
All right. So that's young children. And then as they get older, you can remind them to go tap. At some point they are going to
Or
get...
ask if you'd
Ask.
like, right? Just asking without telling them.
Yes.
So now we're talking, 5 to 11-ish. And, many will still, when they're upset enough, is like, just, if you'd like to tap, I can help you. It's like...
Right.
And it might not be in the moment.
Right.
They might come back later.
Right.
Or you might have also developed some rituals, right? Maybe you have certain times and certain places that you tap with them on some check-in, at the end of the week or before you go to bed. So there are different times that rituals could be set up. And depending on the independence of the child is how much they might ask for help or how upset they have to be for how long before
Right.
they ask.
So for that age group and even younger, asking the level of intensity when we check the SUDS, I mean, it almost like doesn't matter if they're telling you about it. It's going to be it's enough to tap on. So, but you could use things like, does it hurt as small as a mouse or as big as an elephant? You can. I've heard of a practitioner who uses Play-Doh and just brings a whole bunch of Play-Doh and puts it on the table. Grab as much Play-Doh as you feel this sadness. And then with each round, going back and saying, okay, how much sadness do you feel now?
Or another one that's fun is, go ahead and take however many steps back you feel angry.
Right.
And let's just say they take 2 steps back and it's like, really that angry? And then they keep walking back, that angry? And they, they might walk back as far as whatever the wall is.
Right.
But, and you do a round.
And then you come back together and you tap.
And it's like, okay, how
Now,
angry
how
are you
much?
now? And maybe they take a few more steps forward or they're a little bit closer. So,
Yeah.
The thing that's going to pervade every one of these ages is being as creative as possible
Sure.
to find rapport and connection with a kid to find a way that works.
Yep.
Right? The rules
Yep.
kind of go out the window here as far as perfection and perfect EFT.
Oh, for
it's
sure.
whatever works to be able to tap and to regulate.
Right. So all of those things will help, and you got to find your style and what works for your child, and knowing that just like every other thing with a child's development, what worked in one age or last week might not work this week or a year from now. So you have to learn to adapt and change to what their needs are.
Then they turn into those other human beings.
Oh, yeah.
The teenager.
Oh, yeah. So when I learned EFT, my kids were pretty young. They did it throughout childhood. It was fantastic. I did it with them. And then they hit the age where that's mom's thing. It doesn't work. And so for those kids, and even younger, if you're really stuck, please reach out to a practitioner. So with our kids, when they got to that age, I hired other people to work with them, because guess what? I knew that part of it might be me, might be I was a source of stress for them. I was a source of anger for them. I complicated the situation. So having someone there to work with them, even on Zoom, they've done sessions that worked really, really well. And I think that what really helps in the teenage years is going back and really working on yourself and what is it bringing up for you, because even if they didn't install those trigger buttons, they sure know how to push them when they're teenagers.
Yep. And don't give up hope if they go through a period of years and don't tap at all.
Yeah.
Right? Don't think it's been forgotten or thrown away forever.
Yeah.
But they're finding their own way and their own independence, and they're doing their own thing. And, we hear it a lot, and we found it as well.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the late teens, all of a sudden, somebody else has a problem that needs tapping.
Right.
A friend, a girlfriend.
It doesn't work for me, but
Right.
could you tap with my boyfriend on the stress he's feeling about his test?
Right.
And then, lo and behold, we're really proud because we just granted certification to our daughter, who, in her 20s got really interested in trauma work and what she was studying and at university, and then decided to go through the training, and actually it all came back to her, and so
full boomerang effect.
Yeah.
Because during those teenage years, you never could have guessed that.
Never.
So never give up on it. And
the setup statements for that age group, I would say, forget I deeply and completely accept myself. I'm okay.
That's the way it is.
That's the way it is. Yeah, that's when we hear all that. That's the way it is. I feel blah blah blah. Even though I feel that's the way it is, and that's so on point for their attitude in those years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, I've worked with teens, and there's a little bit of space and distance. So, for example, working on a telephone or on Zoom without the visual provides some safety as well.
For sure.
Given, anything from self-appearance issues and self-image issues to anything else that they feel like they can hide a little bit.
Right.
Again, do whatever it takes that works.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I think we've given you a lot. If you are a practitioner listening to this, make sure you follow your local laws and regulations and your scope of practice for working with children. And for young children, what I would often do, it would be the first few sessions I'd have the parents sit in, but maybe off to the side. And then later on, I would, have them maybe sit outside or behind them, so that the child could speak freely about anything that was going on and still know if they needed to, mom and dad were there. And also for the parents feeling, safe with me working on their child, they could listen in and watch. So, yeah, all those considerations. All right?
Yeah, I think that's a good start. Thanks for joining us today at EFT Nation. And remember that you can find show notes and previous episodes at EFTtappingtraining.com.